and welcome to a very special edition of the Clouse Q Show here live on ONTV. I'm Jason Clouse, being joined by my tag team partner in this particular endeavor, the one and only, the incomparable, if you will, Quadell Edwards. Q, you're looking like $1 million.
Hey, thank you.
How you feeling?
I feel great. Glad to be here. Another show, another prediction show for, all the matches they got loaded up on this card. I mean, I'm excited. Hopefully you guys are too.
I'm excited to really start butchering this thing right out of the gate because of the aforementioned lack of card. And of course, we're talking about the Survivor Series as a special preview edition of the Survivor Series. We decided to do this because this is one of the big four. And when we talk about and break down one of the big four pay-per-view or PLE events as they're called now, you have to bring in our special guest panel, and they've been here with us for the previous two where we talked about WrestleMania and then SummerSlam. Please welcome back to the show my co-host and power tripping through the 80s tag team partner, Shawn Grugel is with us, and the Stan Lee of the operation here for the PFC Entertainment Network, Brian Bolf. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here again for this very special episode, because you talk about wrestling, especially in this day and age. At least for me, I feel like I have to be very selective of who I spend my time and energy on. Mm-hmm. Q, would you agree that these two are a notch above?
Oh yeah, these are the dudes right here. Two dudes with attitudes on the other side over there. But yeah, these guys right here, they know their stuff. So it's an honor and pleasure to have you guys back on this thing, and we're gonna bring some knowledge to you guys, and we're gonna have some fun too.
That's what it's all about. Grab some popcorn, grab a soda. This is gonna fly by, I feel like, because this is one of those big events that longtime professional wrestling fans look forward to, because look, it doesn't become part of the big four if it doesn't have some sort of historic lineage. And with that, we decided to step it up a little bit. We wanted to honor that by wearing our fandom here on the show. Of course, I'm rocking the Undertaker. Brian is wearing a Ric Flair nice shirt over here.
Yeah, I like
Shawn is wearing a shirt that was... What the hell is that?
It's the Cannonball. Alex Steele, who was an MWO mainstay on Showdown here on TV many, many years ago, making waves out in the independents, and quite frankly, he's probably getting more bookings than half the guys in the WWE right now, since they haven't named any more matches than 3 for Survivor Series.
For sure. Q, and you are...
He's got Hulk Hogan's cross on, I see.
Yeah, see, I'm a mashup.
For two now.
I forgot the fanny pack. I could have been Dwayne Johnson, back in the curly hair era. I got my Hogan cross on, I got my Dominic Mysterio hat on, I got a lot going on right now.
You talk about The
It's
Rock.
Booker Q.
And The Rock is
Tea in the house.
Are those your LA Knights?
My LA Knights, see there? See?
Yeah.
He knows.
So,
He knows.
Anyway, you mentioned The Rock a moment ago, and of course, if you follow his career in professional wrestling, it started at a Survivor Series. This show originated in 1987, and for the longest time, Q, it was held on Thanksgiving night. It became part of the actual holiday, and I think for me, that's what really set this pay-per-view apart, because even though it's now held on Saturdays, it was on Thursdays for the longest time, and then they switched over to the night before the actual holiday, which was fine because it was different, what I'm saying?
Right.
But I feel like once they got to the Sunday time slot, and even though they still coincided with the Thanksgiving holiday, it just wasn't the same. Shawn, I'm going to ask you, because, you and I pretty much cut from the same cloth in terms of our fandom and when we started paying attention to professional wrestling, specifically the WWF. The Survivor Series, and I already know where this is going. When the Survivor Series was being talked about and debuted in 1987, did you have any idea of what that show would become? I mean, did you look at it as a big deal, I guess?
Back then, I looked at it as a big deal. Now, to me, it's just any other pay-per-view. I mean, when you had the teams one side against the other, the armies, so to speak, in an elimination match, you had 5 or 6 of those. That's what the Survivor Series was. What it's become now is essentially a Raw or a SmackDown. We were talking about it on the drive up here about what our favorite Survivor Series moments were.
Right.
Personally, I don't have any because once they got away from that program, once they got away from what set the Survivor Series apart from everything else, I pretty much stopped paying attention. Except for the gobbledygooker, I cannot think of anything other than the Survivor Series.
Thank you. Brian, what's your fandom with the Survivor Series? I know we've kind of touched on this in previous episodes where we kind of broke down what was your unofficial favorite list in terms of pay-per-view. Where does the Survivor Series
Yeah, that was,
land?
it's obviously, for me, it's Rumble. God, you know what? I can't remember what I said. I think
Rumble, Mania.
It might be Mania. It might be Survivor Series. They're kind of tied for me.
Yeah.
And I like the old format. I like the 4v4 or whatever it ended up being, sometimes 10v10 with multiple managers out there. Yeah. But that was what I liked. And then as more they get away from that, I'm kind of, like you said, it's just becoming more just it could be any pay-per-view. You could slap any name on it. It could be Backlash, it could be anything.
But this is
it could be
War Games!
It could be War Games.
It's cool, and
I was going to say, it could be Elimination Chamber.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they
debuted.
They did debut the Elimination Chamber at the Survivor Series 2002, and of all places, Madison Square Garden. Now, this year is going to be, there's a lot of anticipation for this show, but it's not because of the card itself, I feel like. This is being held next Saturday night, November the 25th, live on the official streaming service that you can see the WWE PLEs or pay-per-view events. It goes down in Chicago, Illinois this year, Q, and that is what has started a more talk about what's happening behind the scenes leading up to this show than actually what is being promoted to happen within the ring. Here's the problem, and this has been a sticking point with the four of us. We've had private conversations or individual conversations amongst our group here. There is only 3 matches that have been announced for this show. 2 of them you could probably see on any given Monday night, but it's being put on this card, and it makes you wonder, did they go too heavy with just the War Games tagline, number 1, and number 2, is this the downfall of selling out a building as quick as they do, or they did for this show? Because now that they have the building sold, they've got their money, they're getting paid regardless of how many pay-per-view buys they get or what is actually happening in the show itself. And I feel like that's, and I'm not going to just peg this on this is what is the byproduct of this merger with UFC, because this has been a thing for a long time, right? You get these marquee shows like this, you get a sold-out building, great, but then the show itself is lackluster at best. Would you agree with that?
Well, you know why they sold out. You can look at the ratings for AEW when they were in Chicago, and we know who I'm going to say, CM Punk was the rumor.
Right.
I'm putting all my eggs in a basket saying the reason why this building sold out as quick as they did was CM Punk being released from AEW. all your Chicago marks are flocking to this building because they believe that their hero, CM Punk, is going to be there. And quite frankly, I really hope he doesn't show up. I don't know about you guys, but I don't give 2 squirts in a bucket as far as CM Punk is concerned.
What's your take on this whole 2 squirts in a bucket? Great. The whole CM Punk aspect here.
I'm going to say, that wasn't my period of where I stopped watching wrestling for a long period. I've never really sat down and seen a CM Punk match even. I mean, maybe back when I just rewatched some of them, just clips even, but so it doesn't mean anything to me. I actually think it would be hilarious if his Cult of Personality music hits and we see like Austin Theory walk out or something like that.
That would be phenomenal.
That would restore his career.
Yeah.
I think that would be amazing. Now, would the crowd like that?
No.
I don't know. Will you have a riot on your hands? Maybe. But you get a lot of internet buzz.
Yeah.
A lot of clicks, right?
Yep.
And that's what it's all about in this day and age, Q. But, I mean, Chicago is notoriously one of those more higher energy crowds. They obviously love CM Punk. His unceremonious exit from AEW has, immediately sparked the rumor that he might be returning to WWE. He made mention of it. He kind of trolled all of the fans a week or 2 ago. He did some commentary for an MMA event, and his broadcast partner had a WWE pin on his shoulder, on his lapel, and it's like, that wasn't done by accident. We'll get to more of the behind the scenes here in a little bit, but let's focus on the matches that have been announced for the Survivor Series next Saturday night, November the 25th. We're going to start by breaking down the Intercontinental Championship match, the longest reigning title holder in WWE history. The one and only Gunther is going to defend the title against former champion, A-lister, whatever you want to call him, The Miz. And what do you think about this on the surface? Because you got Gunther, who has been arguably the most dominant wrestler in WWE, not named Roman Reigns, in the last 3 or 4 years. He's shattered the Honky Tonk Man's record as the longest reigning champion. Now you have The Miz in here. You're not impressed with this.
Hey, that's a WrestleMania main eventer right
Let's
there.
not get crazy about it.
But I'm going to tell you what I want to see. Will they do it? I don't know. I want to see the baddest squash in the history of squashes. I want to see the Miz.
You want The Miz to go over on Gunther like that?
I want Gunther to chop the chest off of this man.
Oh.
I want the Miz to walk out my color. I'm telling you, I want to see a beating. And I don't want him to kill the guy, but I want to see Gunther totally dominate this match.
Listen.
The Miz won like 2 matches this year. That's legit.
He's an A-lister. He's Hollywood royalty. He is a multiple-time Grand Slam champion.
It's great for Gunther.
Gunther's chops sound like gunshots, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up kaboom! You're hearing. I mean,
that's what I want to hear.
If that happened here, they would have heard it in Lapeer.
I want the Miz to get chopped and everybody in the crowd ducks.
Okay, so what did the Miz do to you?
Oh,
Why are you so mad?
He showed up.
He showed up.
He showed up to SummerSlam War Games.
This is Survivor Series.
Survivor. He's messing me all up. But that's what I want, though. I want him to get squashed.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay.
That's all we need. 5 minutes.
Is that with intro or?
5 minutes, bell to bell.
Bell to bell.
Bell to bell. 5 minutes.
Shawn, what's your take on this? We've talked about Gunther. It seems like it's taking you a minute to come around to him. But this guy, in my opinion, you're going to see that face, maybe not on the poster for WrestleMania 40, but definitely by 41. Would you agree?
I think so. We talk about throwbacks, and Gunther's Gunther, I'm sorry, is a definite throwback, but he's a throwback to like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And I am absolutely with Q. I want to see a squash match on this too. I like The Miz. I sure like him a heck of a lot more than Ivar the Viking, And I'm so glad that match didn't start up or wind up being this. I think Gunther going over Miz, high-profile squash match. I mean, it's going to be the equivalent like what Brock Lesnar did to John Cena.
Yeah.
I think it'll get Gunther over real quick.
Yeah, man, that's a hell of an analogy, because if anybody remembers that match at SummerSlam, I mean, Lesnar just beat the tar out of John Cena, like unlike anything that we had ever seen happen to John Cena at that point. But then again, that's very much what could happen here with the Intercontinental Championship match. Brian, what's your take on this? Is there any conceivable way that The Miz leaves the Survivor Series with the title?
There's 0%. I would never bet any money on that. You could give me the best odds in the world. There's no way I would take that. It's even weird to think we're looking at Gunther as like a heel and The Miz as a face, and in reality it's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
Because no one can stand The Miz, and Gunther everyone wants to see eventually go for the heavyweight title. Yeah. And it's funny you're saying about the quick smashes. Are we going to see like the throwback to Brock and Goldberg? That was also at Survivor Series.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Like, bam, over.
Boom.
So they've done it in the past. It could happen again.
That's the one thing about the Survivor Series is, throughout the years they've had big matches, they've had big cards, they've had less than stellar ones, but every now and again it provides one of those moments that resonate throughout the course of WWE history. And I feel like that's the one thing that this show really needs. It really needs to have that one holy moly moment.
I've been catching myself too.
Yeah, we're not on the podcast here.
We're not at work.
We're not at work for sure. Making the transition, and the one thing that I do appreciate about this on the surface is that the Intercontinental Championship is on a big platform. It is one of the most prestigious titles in all of wrestling, and it has been for a long, long time. So I'm glad to see, and that's what I appreciate a lot about Gunther, is he's been able to restore that credibility, restore that spotlight on that title. Now, also signed for this event is one of the newer titles that will be on the line here in WWE that happens as a part of the Survivor Series, where Zoe Stark is going to challenge Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Make no mistake about it, Rhea Ripley is a marquee star right now. She is one of those of those new faces of WWE. It took her a minute to get there, but now that she's part of the Judgment Day and she is now the Women's World Champion, or whatever official title this one is, there's too many titles or what have you. Shawn, from a promotional standpoint, you have Rhea Ripley, the champion, obviously. She's got a very unique look here. Zoe Stark, if I'm a casual fan, nothing is really making this pop for me. So is there anything about her that makes her stand out and why she deserves this title match? Because me personally, I'm just not seeing it.
I don't see it either, and why they don't have Shayna Baszler in this match is beyond me. Zoe Stark, the only reason why I know her name right now is because we're talking about her. Earlier in the week, you and I got to talking. I couldn't even remember her name. I know she physically She's definitely gifted. She's definitely got skills, but I think she was way too green to bring her up so early from NXT.
Agreed.
I think they were trying to fulfill or fill up a women's roster where women were starting to get hurt or taking time off. I think they needed, a body to replace, these hurt females. But Shayna Baszler, 110% deserves to be in that spot as opposed to Zoe Stark.
Brian, you've kind of watched NXT off and on. You've seen a lot of these talents that start off there. They achieve a degree of success. They get called up to the main roster, and
Karrion Kross.
The success ratio is not favorable for them. Are they pushing Zoe Stark too fast to put her on this spotlight?
I don't even understand why they're pushing her. Of the female talent that are still down in NXT, like, why choose her? Other than they could have did that whole, God, who was it? Like, her mentor.
Oh, Trish Stratus?
Trish Stratus. Like, I feel like that's the only reason she's in WWE now, was because they wanted to pull that whole angle then.
Q?
My thing with Zoe, she's talented, but this is way too early of a spot for her. And I definitely agree with Shawn that Shayna Baszler definitely should have been in this spot.
She had beat Ronda Rousey. She beat the baddest woman on the planet.
Exactly.
Right.
And
it drove her out to WWE.
Yeah.
I mean, storyline-wise.
And you can't
obviously
count the whole Crown Jewel 5-way as her title match. So I believe that she should have got a proper one-on-one match. Zoe shouldn't be in this thing. I mean, Zoe's not over. Nobody's reacting to her. The whole Trish experiment thing did not work for her. It didn't. Trish, she was bringing Trish down.
Yeah, and that's when you kind of got to cut bait right there, because talk about Trish Stratus or MWO. WWE Hall of Fame, or we were talking about MWO wrestling before we came on the air here, so it's kind of stuck in my brain, nostalgic purposes or what have you. But in WWE, there's so many so many other women who really deserve to have that rocket strapped to them to see what they could do. People that have been there for a long time just really haven't been given that ample opportunity to really shine or show the masses what a already hardcore fan base has already established, right? So, listen, we got more to talk about here as a part of this preview show. We're going to obviously talk about the big main event here, but before we do, we're going to run a quick timeout. So more of the special Survivor Series edition of the Clouse Q Show live on ONTV is right after this.
9, 8.
Are you or someone you know having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance abuse crisis? 988 connects you to compassionate, confidential support for free.
988.
988 is the new 3-digit dialing code for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. For years, the Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, has answered tens of millions of calls and helped people overcome mental health-related distress. 988 is the same trusted resource. When you call, text, or chat 988, you'll be quickly connected to trained crisis counselors who will listen to your concerns, provide support, and get you additional help if needed. There is hope. The Lifeline works. You are not alone in crisis. Just call, text, or chat 988.
988.
Knowing how to identify signs of crisis in others and help connect them to resources like the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is an important way to prevent suicide in Lake Orion. For information about free suicide prevention trainings offered in our community, please visit the North Oakland Community Coalition at noccmi.org.
988.
And welcome back to a very special Survivor Series preview edition of the Clouse Q Show here live on ONTV, along with Quadell Edwards. I am Jason Clouse, being joined by our frequent guests and co-hosts, panelists, if you will. Shawn Grugel, my co-host on Power Tripping Through the 80s, which you can see or hear every Wednesday on the PFC Entertainment Network, and the Stan Lee of our operation, the one and only Brian Bolf. Gentlemen, we've been talking about the Survivor Series next Saturday, live on Peacock and the WWE Network for the rest of the world outside of the continental United States. 8 p.m. it goes down. Chicago, Illinois is going to be hosting this thing, the Allstate Arena. And I'm told, you hear the stories of this is one of the workers' favorite buildings because of the acoustics that are in there. And there is a lot of anticipation, a lot of rumor, a lot of innuendo that is hyping this show up, despite the fact that it's only 3 matches deep at this point. We've broken down the Intercontinental and the Women's World Championship matches that have been scheduled or announced for this. But obviously it comes down to the centerpiece of this particular show, the match known as War Games. You are going to see Team Cody Rhodes against Team Judgment Day. And I'll be straight up with you. I'm glad that they're incorporating War Games into a main roster pay-per-view. It really can't get any better than the Survivor Series, in my opinion, unless you're just going to have a brand new pay-per-view just called War Games, which I guess could work. But if they're going to get away from the traditional elimination tag team matches that made the Survivor Series what it is, you got to have some sort of catchy gimmick or a team concept. And, well, the history of War Games is obviously fitting to be a part and the centerpiece with the history of the Survivor Series. This match, Shawn, created by Dusty Rhodes back in the Jim Crockett Promotions era. What's the first War Games match that you remember hearing about or watching?
Oh, Lord. Wouldn't that be like it was Sting... Was it Sting and Ric Flair?
Yeah.
God. Now you're making me go back. Old man brain isn't working.
No, listen. The original concept for War Games centered around the Four Horsemen. It was the Four Horsemen, the quintessential heels. But to make it 5, they brought in J.J. Dillon as part of their team, their manager. And then you would have a group of baby faces, usually captained by their biggest star and then the supporting cast. Like, I can't remember the exact first match, but there's a number of different matches that have happened under the War Games banner with the Dangerous Alliance and things of this nature before it finally made its debut under the WWE umbrella, which happened in NXT. So now here we are. This is the second year in a row that War Games has been incorporated into the Survivor Series. On paper, this is a decent match. This is a decent lineup. You have, this is obviously Raw heavy. You have the Judgment Day, who I'm going to be straight up with you. They have really impressed me. It has taken me a minute to get behind the concept of the Judgment Day, starting when Edge or Adam Copeland started the group. And when he got kicked out and Edge eventually left the WWE, I wondered how much longer can this thing go. But Q, they have really been part of the focal point on Monday nights, have they not?
I definitely agree. Unfortunately, the one who really made that group is not in this match. Rhea Ripley. Whew. Boy, when she really, she's the leader. When she's the leader, when she got in that group, that's when you start seeing it really take off. You get Edge out of there, you get Finn Balor in there, and Dominic and I guess
JD
McDonuts, he just got there. But as a group, you know, they are clicking, and it's cool to see like all these different personalities, you know, actually form a family. I don't like seeing like people that are like extremely similar, because it's more interesting when you see all these different characters,
Right.
you know, in a group, and they're together and they're united, and I mean they're doing a good thing on Raw, and you know, but as far as like the other team here, it's gonna be a good match. I think the match is gonna be good. This is not to me. It's more thrown together than it was last year. The whole bloodline thing. I mean,
White hot.
you're not topping that.
Right.
And I understand that they're trying to with the Judgment Day. They are the hottest act on Raw, but it's just the fact that we can compare it to just a year ago. And then even if you go a year before that with the Undisputed Era and NXT, and man, so they're really gonna have to really bring it in this match, you know. So they can make the match very magical. That's all I'm gonna say. The story is a little weird, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, the centerpiece on the opposing side, Team Rhodes, here is that for the first time, you're getting to see Cody Rhodes compete in a match that was, you know, created by his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, that's cool.
So in that aspect, I can appreciate that. He has star power on this team. And Brian, I think it was you and me that were talking at work the other night, last night as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, with Seth Rollins being incorporated in this team, the World Heavyweight Champion is actually taking a back seat to another guy that's deemed the captain of the team. And does that diminish Rollins' rank as champion in your opinion, or does it not, or just it doesn't matter at this point?
No, but I think it's the only reason I say that is because the way I see this match going, I think it's going to play a lot into a storyline for a future match for Seth Rollins.
Okay.
I also don't think we're going to see 4-on-4. I think it will be 5-on-5. I think we will have Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton added to that group. And if we're going to go right to predictions, I think we're going to see Drew McIntyre end up that match ending with Drew McIntyre pinning Seth Rollins.
Could be interesting. Could be very interesting.
Because then you're going to see Priest get pushed out of Judgment Day, and then you're going to have McIntyre versus Rollins, and you're going to have Priest with the Money in the Bank case.
That can happen at Survivor Series.
That could very well happen at
There's
Survivor
a lot of
Series.
possibilities in this match.
You know, rounding out this team is Jey Uso, who is really starting to come into his own as a solo star after the majority of his career has been in a tag team with his twin brother Jimmy. They're dubbing him the main event now, Shawn. Main event Jey Uso, and then also the Yukon Cornelius of WWE, Sami Zayn. On paper, is there anything about Team Rhodes that stands out to you as this guy is here because he is going to be one of our next big stars?
Well, first of all, now that we're sitting here talking about it, I think they only need 3 matches for this entire card.
Okay.
Because it's going to take 20 minutes for Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes for the crowd to stop singing their music, number one.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, I just want to point out, look at Dirty Dom there. Look how proud he is of the Judgment Day. See, here's my take on this. I was wrong last time we were here on TV because I said I felt the Judgment Day was going to split up. I believe it was it Royal Rumble predictions or was it WrestleMania? I don't remember which one it was.
WrestleMania.
It may have been Mania.
I think it was Mania. Now we're talking.
And then we recap SummerSlam.
This very well could be the setup for the demise in this incarnation of the Judgment Day, especially since Drew McIntyre has now been let into the group. Main event Jey Uso, not exactly my thing. Sami Zayn, since he lost to Roman Reigns, he's lost a lot of thunder. I really think for some reason this match is going to build Cody Rhodes back up, but at the same time, I don't see it happening. I don't think Cody is as over as he was when he first came in from AEW. I think it was the initial excitement. I really don't think too many people give, like I said, 2 squirts in a bucket about the fact that this is a match that his dad created. You know, is this the story Cody wants to finish? He wants to, you know, fight in War Games? Who knows? I look at this, and the standout to me in this match right now is Dirty Dom. Mm-hmm. And I also take offense to the fact that you call Seth Rollins the world champion. He is the secondary champion. He was handed a belt to try to make a name for it.
He beat AJ Styles in a tournament final.
If he
it wasn't a Triple H gimmick where they just handed him a briefcase and be like, "Here, you're now the champion of the world."
If he would have beat Roman, then I would have called him champ.
Well, yeah, but
now Roman never beat Seth.
But
you gotta remember that
Seth never beat Roman. So I just, to me, and Q nailed it. This match was just thrown together, straight up. We have to put Cody up. We have to put him over. Oh, by the way, we're going to put Drew in this match too. And oh, hey, Randy Orton's going to be making a comeback too. So why don't we throw him in this match too? All the while, why don't we keep the CM Punk rumors going as well?
Right.
This is garbage. This is a garbage main event. And any of you WWE writers, if you really want someone to do a good job, you quit. WWE, you hire us 4. We will take care of you. We will put you into the next century as the top promotion in the United States.
I swear to God, if that was the thing, the 3 of us are going marching into a particular building on Sunday night with our letters of resignation in no uncertain terms. We'll see you in Stamford.
That's right.
We'll come back for the women. I heard all that, and this is thrown together and all this. And on paper, yes, on the left side of this graphic, that is a very hodgepodge team. But Q, I'm reminded of the first few Survivor Series and the teams that made up those. Even, I mean, the main event of '87 was pretty much the Heenan family, with the addition of the one-man gang, okay, and then Butch Reed, I believe, was in that match as well. But you look at Hogan's team for that particular one. It was Hogan, it was Bigelow, it was Ken Patera, and Don Morocco. It was supposed to be Billy Graham, but like the hip thing was, prevented him from actually wrestling ever again, so they inserted Don Morocco into this. But what's the difference between this team being made up of a bunch of individual talents than Team Hogan or Team Warrior or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. See, that's why I'm looking at it like here at the graphic as, a thrown together team. That's why I say it's got to be a hot match. And there's got to be a story played within the match to really buy me in. Because as of right now, I'm not really bought in. But that can change by the time, this match is over. If the story they can make that story hot. Whatever story they're going to tell in that ring, they can make it hot. I mean, truthfully, there's a minor story with each and every one of these guys. Nobody should be able to trust Jay. I mean, that's why Drew's on the other side, and I don't know why Randy would team up with these guys. I mean, wasn't it Roman that took Randy out and the Usos that took Randy out? It's storyline.
All these guys need to be rebuilt, just like Randy, though. Randy needs to be rebuilt. Every single one of those guys on the left need to be rebuilt.
Yeah, but there's only one. There's now, if you bring Randy back, this is the only thing I really agree with Randy being in this match. That will hide whatever ring rust he has being in the ring with all of these guys. So that's the best thing you can do for him, because you don't want to see him in a one-on-one match and he's still trying to get his footing, So that's the only positive I see. And he will pop the crowd. I mean, we're talking about, 18 months?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
That's a long time. So,
well,
the Judgment Day still had Edge in it when he was before he left. Riddle still had a job.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. You know, and I think it was yesterday somebody had posted a TikTok of Monday Night Raw had gone off the air and Cody Rhodes was still in the ring with a live microphone. Yeah. And they have been, he himself has been throwing little teasers out there about Randy Orton's return. Yeah. And, you know, that's great and everything, and I want the guy to be able to come back, assuming that he can do it without paralyzing himself or something like that. I don't want him or anybody in this position to come back just for the sake of that one pop or what have you. You guys have, you know, earlier we've kind of touched on what our fanfare has been with the Survivor Series for Shawn. You know, not a lot of moments that really stand out. And Brian had a break in his fandom for an extended amount of time. But as you hear the word Survivor Series, Shawn, we'll start with you. I mean, I know we kind of, you know, we joked about the gobbledygooker. But is there anything that, from your estimation, that occurred at the Survivor Series that changed the course of history? I have a couple off the top of my head.
Me too.
We've talked about a few.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. You know, I mean, the only match that pops in my head is Jerry the King Lawler with Inky Pinky or Cheesy Queasy and you know and the Clowns, you know, or man. Chuck Norris being the special guest referee between Yokozuna and the Undertaker. But
sweet spinning heel kick.
I mean, Survivor Series in the '80s was my fandom. Survivor Series starting from the '90s on. Call it Old Man Brain. Call it I just took it out of my head. Because Survivor Series to me it's a Monday Night Raw for me. It has no special place in my heart. Not like a Royal Rumble, not like a WrestleMania.
Right. Brian?
I feel like it's either one way or the other. I think there's been great moments, and they also have some of the silliest moments. The gobbledygooker. Wasn't it Survivor Series where Paul Bearer was suspended over the ring?
Yeah.
In that one match. I mean, they've had some of the goofiest things. But we also, The Rock debuted, Shield debuted there.
The Undertaker.
I mean, like, you've had some of your biggest stars. Like, The Shield. I mean, like, that was huge.
Absolutely. What about you, pal?
I got a couple. One that stands out to me is Taker winning the title with the help of Ric Flair. I know you probably didn't like Hogan getting
Look, I was torn in that. I was in the building that night.
That would be a rough one for you.
That night when
that was
Taker,
a rough one. Yeah.
That was rough. I didn't know who to cheer for. I liked them both.
I mean, they kept the camera on Hogan for like 10 minutes, like he died in the ring or something.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite matches actually occurred on Survivor Series. I was a big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin against Bret Hart.
Great.
The first match.
Great match.
Love that match, man. That was a great match. And even Shawn and Bret, the first one, not the screw job one, but the first one.
That was another big one.
That was
Survivor Series too.
Match. But as far as Survivor Series style matches, my favorite one was 2003, which 20-year reunion now. Team Stone Cold against Team Bischoff, because it had stakes.
Yeah.
A match that has stakes elevates it so much more for me. And the fact that Stone Cold's career was on the line, or he can just beat some people up if his team win. I mean, and Shawn Michaels playing the hero. There's a lot was told in that match. And that one of my favorite stunners to Randy Orton, where he flips back and just lands on the rope and just hangs there. Oh my God, I loved every bit of that match, man.
For me, it obviously it's the Montreal screw job that took place in 1997, because that legitimately changed the course of history for professional wrestling, in my opinion. Because, and I've heard it talked about it like this. I agree with it because this is how I saw it. When Bret Hart spit in Vince McMahon's face, and Vince took his hand and wiped it off.
Yep.
When his hand finished crossing his face, we were introduced to Mr. McMahon. And Mr. McMahon would go on to become, in my estimation, the greatest heel in professional wrestling. His rivalry with Steve Austin that took place after that would change the entire landscape of the entire business, not just for WWE, but for the entire business. WCW, ECW to some degree, like it became a worldwide phenomenon on levels that were only dreamed unimaginable at one point. That happened at the Survivor Series.
Yep.
And without that, we wouldn't know wrestling what it is here today. There's no telling what it would look like here today. You know, but it really does provide a background for these iconic moments and these stars that stepped out onto the big stage for the first time. We've mentioned The Rock, we've mentioned The Shield, but my God, The Undertaker, and I realize I'm biased because I'm such a huge fan of his, and I have been from day one. Like when that dude walked out with Brother Love as his manager, the entire, like, I was like, that dude is going to be somebody.
He was scary.
Yeah.
I remember being a kid and be like, this dude is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Look at the crowd.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. And that's the kind of reaction we don't see anymore, Shawn, is it? That legitimate fear, because I don't know if it's just because the business has evolved, or is it because there's just not those characters that connect on that level anymore.
Combination.
Well, that's it anymore. There isn't characters anymore, you know. The superhero-esque, the villain-esque, you know, everyone wants to be some sort of total bad man, okay? And no one wants to be a character anymore. You know, you guys are sitting there talking about Survivor Series, and it popped in my head, Jason, and it's crazy to me to think about this, but I remember when NXT went up against the Old Blood. What was it, John Cena's team? NXT was the hottest thing going, and then they buried them, absolutely buried them. You know, when you guys are talking about the Montreal Screwjob, or, you know, what other singles matches you had on there, when I think of Survivor Series, I think of the War Games type matches. You know, when these single matches, I don't even put into relation that they were on Survivor Series. It's one of those things where, yes, it was absolutely huge moments, and yes, Survivor Series provided them the platform, but to me, the Survivor Series was those 4-on-4, 5 versus 5 matches, and that's why a lot of times I don't even think about those singles matches.
Do you have a favorite Survivor Series team, Brian? Does one stand out and be like, man, that was a BA team? I know I just kind of threw that. That's
I'm in my head. I'm going to, like, you just, like I said, I had a list of 3 of my favorite matches, and you went with the Bret Hart, Stone Cold, and then Bischoff versus Austin, and the only other one left on my list was WWE versus Team Alliance.
Yeah,
those were some great teams right there.
Yeah.
That was an all-star team for WWF. So, WCW not so much. But.
No, contract issues.
Yeah,
it kind of messed the whole feud up.
Yeah, for sure.
If they, I believe, if they would have waited a year, you know, when some of these guys freed up, because look, a year later, NWO showed up, Goldberg showed up, Scott Steiner showed up, all these guys showed up. If they would have just waited, that would have been quite the team. Imagine. NWO, Goldberg, and all these guys teaming up to they could have even, I know they missed out on Sting, you know, Sting sat at home.
Yeah.
And TNA ended up swooping them up, you know. So many opportunities, so many missed opportunities if they would have just waited. They hot shot at that.
You've expressed your immense appreciation for the original concept of the Survivor Series, and I'm 100% on board with you on that. That's what set this show apart. Something that we looked forward to every year. Who is going to be on whose team, you know? is there one team that stands out as that is my favorite Survivor Series team, or it made the most sense?
Attacking that old man brain.
Yeah, he really is, man.
I'll tell you, it kicked off, the whole thing kicked off perfectly in '87. Team Macho Man that had Macho Man Savage, Ricky Steamboat, Jake the Snake, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake against Team Honky Tonk Man, Danny Davis, Harley Race, Outlaw Ron Bass, was it Danny Davis?
You already said Danny Davis.
Did I?
You said that.
Oh, crap. I can't remember who the other one was. Anyway, even for mid-card, that was the perfect match to open up the Survivor Series. It made sense. But then I think of the other teams like the Perfect Team, where it was Mr. Perfect and the 3 members of Demolition against the Warriors. You know, it was Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, and Hawk and Animal. You know what I'm saying? So I part of me wishes they would go back to the original concept and actually leave it at that, but I'm okay with the whole War Games thing.
Why not do both?
Why could you not do? Well, I mean,
I was a big fan of a few years back. I know you were too, when it was NXT versus SmackDown versus Raw. I thought that was one of my favorite Survivor Series cards.
my only issue with that one was every match was a triple threat.
Basically.
And you give me one, maybe two, if it makes sense, I get it. But when every match, and even though on paper it makes sense, you've got the 3 brands being represented.
Yeah.
And they did have some damn good matches on that show.
I was shocked that they had, what was it, Roderick Strong go over on Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
It was like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much the only thing about the matches were great. That was pretty much the only thing I liked about that whole concept. The fact that the brand warfare thing, I hate it. Because we see people switch brands all the time.
Yeah.
Why are you all of a sudden so SmackDown, SmackDown this, SmackDown that? You were just on Raw like 3 weeks ago.
That's my biggest issue with the whole with the whole brand split. If you're going to do it, do it.
Do it.
Just and leave it, because then this becomes something.
Yep.
Give the winning team some, not just bragging rights, but give them something to fight for.
We need stakes.
Yeah, give them a title shot at Armageddon or whatever the December pay-per-view is going to be, or a shot at the Royal Rumble. If you roll,
This is it.
Huh?
This is it.
Yeah,
I mean, for the year.
there is. I mean, well, it is too,
Yeah,
isn't it?
no,
There is
nothing
no
in
more.
December.
No pay-per-views in December. Crazy.
Boo.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and start winding this stuff down. We certainly appreciate everybody tuning in here as we do each and every month here on ONTV. I want to give another special thanks to Shawn Grugel and Brian Bolf for joining us. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure when we can sit here and shoot the breeze about professional wrestling. Shawn, we're going to be watching this thing on Saturday. Do you have any expectations going into this at all, or are you just going to watch it as it unfolds?
I might not even watch it as it unfolds. I might watch it on Sunday or Monday. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about having it on demand. We're sitting here talking about memories. One of my favorite things was remembering Vince McMahon doing the announcing, talking about the Thanksgiving Eve tradition.
Yeah.
I could still hear that Coliseum video type music playing in the back of my head. I could hear Vince McMahon. I just wish they would have kept a tradition alive instead of changing the entire format.
Well, that's a very much a Vince thing. Like, he'll create history and then try to erase it at the same time. Brian, do you have any expectations, going into this? Is there going to be that one big moment?
I feel like there's a lot of chances for big moments. Whether we'll see them or not, who knows? I'm going to throw the most outlandish guess of what could possibly happen. Because I keep looking at the Survivor Series logo. We're going to see the return of Vampiro. Look at those fangs right there.
Not really. He's booked for a lot of indie shows in Michigan this month.
Yeah.
Damn
You know how close
Vampiro.
Michigan is to
Wow.
Chicago?
Vampiro.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a train ride, dude.
It really is. Just a few hours.
They're not bringing Vampiro in there.
They're not bringing back.
We'll see Gangrel
I said the most
before we see Vampiro.
You know, I'll take a Gangrel. He's actually going to be the leader of Judgment Day.
Yeah, well, he probably should. He probably could have, but
At this point, I'm not surprised.
be that as it may, we certainly appreciate everybody tuning in. And listen, I'm going to be watching it live, and maybe we can figure something out. We can correspond with our fans in real time. If you are planning on watching the Survivor Series, maybe we'll hop on one of these live feeds or what have you, and we can communicate as the show goes on.
Yep.
Check us out over on Facebook. Just look for the Clouse Q Show or look for the PFC Entertainment Network. With that, go out, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we'll see you right back here next month with a brand new episode of the Clouse Q Show, exclusively on Orion Neighborhood Television.
No CM Punk chance.